Welcome into Four Down Territory. I'm Kyle Madson, the managing editor at NinersWire.com, part of the USA Today Sports Media Group. Joining me, as always, Doug Farrar, the managing editor over at TouchdownWire.com. And Doug, more than a quarter of the season down. That's my least favorite part of the 17-game schedule, is that we can no longer divide it into neat quarters.
There's no quarter pole. There's no half. There's no three. We have to do like a 3.5% of the season.
A quarter-ish of the season is down. No, this is kind of my favorite part of the NFL schedule, because this is where I think you really start to see teams separate. You know, there's the great teams, and then the good teams, and then the teams that are going to be playing for draft position down the stretch. So,
and you start to get a sense of like what teams are and what teams aren't. Trends and stuff like that. So it's the randomness of bad teams beating good teams seems to kind of subside toward this time of year. So super fun time to be watching the NFL, and let's dive into some Week 5 action. So Brock Purdy, superstar on Sunday night against a very good Dallas team. The 49ers quarterback completed 17 of his 24 passes, 252 yards, 4 touchdowns. He didn't throw a pick. It's 144.4 passer rating. You know, great numbers, and it's clear that when he's on, Purdy is the ideal guy that Kyle Shanahan wants running his offense and staying within that system. So for the season, Purdy's completing 98 of his 136 passes. He has 9 touchdowns. He hasn't thrown in an interception yet. He has a passer rating of 123.8. It's the highest in the league. Mm-hmm. Are we ready to say that Purdy is more than a system quarterback in the pejorative sense, or is he one of the guys that you can plug him into any offense and he's lighting it up? I'm still on the fence just a little bit, and I want to qualify this. He is putting some throws on tape that I did not expect watching his college tape, even seeing him last year. The improvements are obvious. The guy did his work in the offseason. His tape against the Cowboys in particular was really, really good. He had a few legitimately big-time throws that any quarterback would be proud to put on in his resume. And it's clear that Shanahan trusts him implicitly to handle his amazing offense with care. And you know, Kyle, if he doesn't trust you, you're out. I trail now in Dallas. So I love what I'm seeing of late. I also remember that Brock Purdy was spraying the ball all over the place against the Rams and the Giants in weeks 2 and 3. And while I'm not saying that's who he is, there were times when Purdy didn't look like he belonged on the field this year, and the stats are a little inflated as a result. His receivers bailed him out a lot. And hey, full marks to his receivers for doing that. I'm fascinated by Purdy's talent. I think he has the potential to be that guy in time. But before that happens, he'll need to rein in the rogue tendencies a bit and stay within himself, which he has done over the last 2 games. And by the way, I'm not slamming him because he's in a system that's primed for success. Every quarterback should have that. This is more about the randomness I'm still seeing, and that's what makes me reluctant to put him in the pantheon. And by the way, as far as the MVP conversation, and you know, you may or may not agree with me, Kyle, Purdy isn't even the most valuable player in his own backfield. That would be Christian McCaffrey, but that's kind of, so I'm not slamming Purdy. I don't know why he's either a complete waste or Joe Montana. Why does it have to be 1 or 100? Why can't it be 80, which is about what I think he is? That's
one of my biggest, it has been I studied mass communication in school. So I've always been really fascinated by just the way people communicate. And online, on the internet, there is a 2-tiered system. Mm-hmm. You are great or you're trash.
Yep.
You're one of the two. And the fact of the matter is that 95% of athletes fall somewhere in the middle. And Purdy, to me, I needed to see it because it was 5 games last year, right? Yep. And it was 5 games, and he played okay in the Seahawks playoff game. He was pretty good, and then against Dallas, had some ups and downs battling that pass rush, but ultimately played okay. And then he gets hurt in the NFC title game. I just needed to see more. And so what we've seen so far this year, is it Joe Montana? No. But is it, I don't know, is it David Carr? No, it's not. He to me is firmly in, I always say, the range of quarterbacks from, like, you can pick numbers, 14 to 22. You can put him in any order.
Right.
He, to me, is in that tier of quarterback. And you're right. His numbers get inflated because of the system he's in and because of the system or the players around him. Like, I understand all that. But the fact of the matter is we've seen what for example, Jimmy Garoppolo looks like in this offense.
Mhm.
And it's not as good as how Brock Purdy looks in this offense. Does he have as quick of a release? Does he have as strong of an arm? Is he the fastest guy? No. And so maybe if you're picking him up and plugging him into Pittsburgh, maybe he looks about like Kenny Pickett.
Well,
I don't think he would. I think he would look a little better, but I don't think he's turning Pittsburgh into an offensive juggernaut that's scoring 30 plus a game the way Patrick Mahomes might.
Yeah.
So I'm not
Dallas with Mike McCarthy, which we'll get to it also in a minute.
Ooh, tough.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you put him in Dallas. It's not going to look very good, but I think for where he's at and for what the 49ers need from their quarterback play, I think he is well exceeding whatever bar that they need their quarterback to hit. And that's ultimately what matters. As far as the MVP conversation goes, I'm with you. Like Christian McCaffrey, to me, if you're picking a front runner for MVP from the 49ers, it's him. But
right now he's my MVP period.
I am with you. I have written about it at NinersWire.com. It's there. Yeah. But we know how the voting goes. And if the season keeps going on this trajectory, if the 49ers are 15-2 and Brock Purdy throws for 4,200 yards and 30 touchdowns with 7 interceptions, he's going to get the votes. And it's silly, but that's kind of how that award has gone. But I'm hoping that Christian McCaffrey wins it. I think that'd be a huge W for running backs.
Well, I have a vote, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Hey, fingers crossed. Hey, you know what? I really hope that you get to vote for Christian McCaffrey for MVP. And obviously there's a lot of season to go. But man, if he's pushing 2,000 rushing yards and he's got 25 plus tutties, be tough to.
And honestly, the best player on the team is Fred Warner. So,
oh, dude, I haven't gotten to dive into your piece about it yet, but I can't wait because.
Well, and just real quick, he
Fred Warner content.
The Cowboys ran mesh on 3rd and 2 on this one play early in the second quarter. It was got Jake Ferguson and CeeDee Lamb running short crossers. Warner blew up both routes. And then somehow got to sack Dak Prescott on the same play. It was like, oh my God, how do you do this?
He is a totally outrageous player.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. So I think Purdy's great. There were 2 games this year where you look like you fell off the back of a truck. And if you want to be a top 5 quarterback, you can't do that. So that's why. Yeah, no, not in the top 5 conversation. I'm not even going to put him in the top 10 conversation, but he's firmly in that, like I said, in that next tier of player for me. Yeah, but if you spin it around like he was against the Cowboys, hey, sure. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right, second down here. There's a lot of really bad teams in the NFL. And eventually, as we know, that means some head coaches are going to find themselves on the wrong side of the job market. So were you to estimate, Doug, one head coach who might lose his job in season, who do you think it'll be?
Kyle, I'm going to present you with a personally potentially unpleasant hypothesis.
Oh, no.
Let's say you're Jerry Jones. Sorry about that. You hired a head coach, and Mike McCarthy was responsible for 2 things: calling the offense now that Kellen Moore is gone, and taking charge of situational football. Well, the offense has been really, really bad this season, especially in the red zone, although you wouldn't know it against the 49ers because they never got in the red zone. And the situational football has always been terrible under McCarthy. After the 42-10 thrashing at the hands of the 49ers, McCarthy said all the usual stuff he says about getting in the room and watching the tape and getting your butt kicked and getting your back to fundamentals and rah, 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 and roaring all over the place and angry bear and blah, blah, blah. But when was the last time this guy had a credible answer for anything that didn't involve Aaron Rodgers playing like the best quarterback we've ever seen? I'm still waiting for it.
He went to PFF, Doug.
Except he didn't. And he watched all that tape, except he actually didn't. Yeah, he didn't go to PFF.
Oh, yikes.
No. Now the 3-2 Cowboys have the Chargers, Rams, and Eagles on their upcoming schedule with a bye in there to think more about it. They'd better at least come out of that at least 2-1, and they'd better look better on offense than the Chargers do because Kellen Moore is calling that offense now. Because Jerry has Dan Quinn as his defensive coordinator, and Dan is going to be a head coach somewhere in 2024, and McCarthy just isn't the guy. Not that I'm over the moon about Brian Schottenheimer running the offense in McCarthy's hypothetical absence, but Schotty would at least throw a few motion concepts at a defense in the red zone, create some spacing for his receivers, not have 158-pound Deuce Vaughn running on 3rd and goal, anything. I don't know. I'm just kind of over it. I don't know what else to say. I've been writing about Mike McCarthy's 2013 Kyle. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to do. I feel like I've done my part and I'm retiring.
The inside, I knew the game Sunday night against the 49ers was over when the Cowboys on 3rd and 4 from inside 49ers territory ran an inside handoff from the gun to Rico Dowdle.
Yep.
Like, what's happening?
Yep.
What are I don't understand it. And speaking of real quick, the Chargers and Kellen Moore calling that offense. I want to talk about MVP candidates. Justin Herbert, man. The Chargers can figure it out. He is having a heck of a year. No, I'm just not sure. Just based on everything you laid out, I don't know how the Cowboys can justify rolling out there with Mike McCarthy if they really want, if they fancy themselves a contender, if they fancy themselves being in that realm, because their roster's loaded. That's why the game against the 49ers was supposed to be so interesting, because there are very few teams that can stack up with San Francisco from a talent perspective, and Dallas can do it. And it didn't look like it. And when you perform that poorly in a playoff atmosphere against a team that's knocked you out of the playoffs the last 2 years, they just didn't look ready to play. They got outcoached at every opportunity. And if you're Jerry Jones and you're calling that game against the Niners a measuring stick game, you learned everything you need to know about your head coach. So had we done this a couple weeks ago, I might have said Brandon Staley and Matt Eberflus has got, apparently the Bears are just back on track and everything is fine now. So he's bought himself enough goodwill. You just kind of look around the league because Sean Payton's not going anywhere in the middle of year one. There's some rookie head coaches.
What they gave up for him. No.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So there's McCarthy is the only logical in-season firing, and if they come out of that stretch that you just mentioned, 1-2 or 0-3, I think his time is up in Dallas.
Yeah, if the season is over like prohibitively halfway through, and Jerry, and he's out there talking boldly about these are measuring sticks, and I want a statement. Like, yeah, buddy, you got one. You got a statement. You got a precise statement of what your head coach can coach his. Because Kellen Moore went to LA because McCarthy wanted to call the offense. McCarthy he put his flag on the ground and said, "This is my offense, and I want to do it this way." And it's a disaster. You wanted this, Bubba. You got it. Now here you are. Here you are.
If they come out of that stretch at 1-2, that means they're sitting at 4-4 with an Eagles team that might be 8-0 by then.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you could justify moving forward with that. All right, third down. Speaking of the Eagles, no, not awesome. So speaking of the Eagles, they've created a nearly automatic success with the tush push, the brotherly shove. I prefer brotherly shove, but tush push just it feels easier. So, so their rugby wedge thing where everybody shoves quarterback Jalen Hurts forward for a short yardage win. The NFL is reportedly talking about outlawing it because the league is studying injury data and the league is concerned.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The league is so concerned about injuries all the time.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Should the NFL and the NFL Players Association ban the tush push when the competition committee meets next March?
No, you wimps. God. The best way to stop a play you don't like is to, how shall I put this? Stop it. Figure it out. Let's start with the injury data, which is inconclusive at best. The Giants had 2 guys get banged up when they tried a misbegotten tush push in week 4, but based on that offensive season, I'm pretty sure they didn't even rep it before they did it because the Giants are not really looking like the most well-rehearsed team out there. The NFL never considers injury data until and unless it's forced to. We know that from 100 years of history. So I'm guessing this is a case where a couple of butt-hurt team owners got tired of getting embarrassed by a nearly foolproof concept unless you're running it like fools. This reminds me a lot of the Wildcat when the Dolphins killed the Patriots with it in 2008, third game of the season. Miami's version was a multi-layered, nuanced thing because quarterbacks coach David Lee had run it with Felix Jones and Darren McFadden at Arkansas the year before as a team's offensive coordinator. So there were all kinds of different blocking stuff, and it had motion. It looked a lot like the Niners run game now. Back in 2008, it was really tough to stop for a while.
Yeah.
And they had great success with it for about half a season before the NFL figured out how to deal with it. I think that was the Ravens defense in like week 10 or 11 that just they shut it down. But in the interim, you had a lot of teams calling direct snaps to the running backs with no eye candy for 3-yard losses, then insisting the Wildcat was stupid. The Eagles figured out a thing this year and over the last couple of years that works perfectly for their personnel. They should not be penalized by it. Plus, Jack Del Rio doesn't like it, and that's reason enough for me to be totally in favor of it. So there you go.
You and me both.
Yeah.
No, this is dumb. The Eagles shouldn't be penalized for having a good offensive line. Like that's the whole thing here. Is the push forward of the quarterback is just like a little extra assistance. This all starts with Jason Kelce. He's a Hall of Fame center in the middle of that offensive line.
Yes, he is.
And he submarines whatever defensive lineman tries to get push up the middle, and Jalen Hurts is a hoss and pushes himself forward. They would be picking up these yards. Hey, spoiler alert. They'd be picking up these yards most likely on regular QB sneaks too.
Mm-hmm.
But you get a little bit of extra push.
Like 15 rushing touchdowns last year, and it wasn't all that.
Right.
It was other
and
stuff.
Nobody cares when this happens in the middle of the field when a running back gets stacked up and then offensive linemen just start pushing the pile. Nobody ever complains about that. But the Eagles, who are good at everything, have this play that they find a ton of success on, and now we're trying to outlaw it. This isn't this isn't like baseball banning the shift, right? Baseball didn't, I don't want to say ban the shift. They changed the parameters of where you could shift on the infield to try and make it easier to get hits because offense was dying. The offense and defense is not dying because of the tush push. The Eagles are just gaining yards when they need them. So outlawing this would be very specific to the Eagles. It's not a league-wide epidemic that's hurting the game or anything like that. The Eagles have just found like you said, a perfect play for their combination of personnel, and it's going to be up to defensive coaches to figure out how to stop it. And frankly, I can't wait for the day that I think, was it UTEP or Tulane that ran the fake version of it where their quarterback fakes into the line and then steps out.
I love that.
Yeah, I can't wait for them to run that. And they're probably going to do it against the 49ers in week 13. So
it was like I think it was the Texans tried like a pop pass, an early version of RPO off the Wildcat that same year, and no one else did it. And I thought, oh, that was such a missed opportunity. But yes, I've seen the fake tush push pass, and I loved it.
Yep.
You have three options: figure out how to do it, figure out how to stop it, or whine like a little baby, and we can see where everything is going. And by the way, you should never use Major League Baseball as your administrative prototype for anything.
That's a fair point. But the other aspect of this that you brought up, and I think it's one of the most important parts of this, is the NFL saying, okay, they're evaluating injury data. What? Since when?
On what planet?
And all of a sudden, so the Eagles have been doing this for a year, and they have injury data saying that it's bad, but they have turf and grass injury data for years, and they don't have enough. It's silly. It's also dumb.
Apparently, they were too busy evaluating the injury data on this to evaluate the turf at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Hello,
apparently.
Buffalo. Yeah.
Brutal, man.
You want to talk about teams that have a legitimate complaint about something, ask the Bills.
Yeah, man. That's the advantage of the Jags getting to stay there all week.
Bills didn't leave until Friday, I guess. What are we doing? But if we're evaluating the injury data, you know what? This is John Mira or someone else. Just
so bad.
I'm over it.
Let's get to we're on fourth down. Let's see if we can line up and push our way across to the end of this. Speaking of all the bad,
I so want to. Now I'm like, somebody please do this.
Speaking of all those bad teams, what was your worst of the week for week 5?
Sean Payton losing the inaugural Nathaniel Hackett Bowl. Before Sunday's game between the Jets and the Broncos even got started, it was abundantly clear the Jets wanted this one for offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, the former, of course, embattled Broncos head coach who caught some strays from current Broncos head coach Sean Payton back in July. As we all know in an interview with USA Today's Jarrett Bell. Hi, Jarrett. What's up? Jarrett's my guy. Great writer for a very long time. Payton said that Hackett's coaching job with the Broncos might have been the worst coaching job in the history of the NFL, among the worst coaching jobs. That's how bad it was. Payton later apologized for the statement, and he's been forced to apologize ever since the tone was set. And though neither Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson nor Jets quarterback Zach Wilson, that's enough Wilsons for now, performed well in this game per se, the Jets did just enough to pull out a 31-21 win. The Broncos offense, supposedly re-engineered by Payton, looked horrible more often than not. Russell Wilson completed 20 of 31 passes for 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a passer rating of 103.7. But he also fumbled away any chance of winning near the end. For all his bold talk before the season, Payton got put in his place here. He and Wilson were, scrapping on the sideline. Payton was apparently yelling at him after the fumble, and Wilson may or may not have been listening. So we're kind of back where we were with Nathaniel Hackett. Too bad.
You just hate to see it. It's really tough.
Yeah, we
also
do see it.
I don't know if I can't remember if we did this or not, but shout out to Jarrett Bell for getting that quote.
I know, right?
That's just excellent journalism. Seriously. Yes. Like that is so good. And getting a person to put their name on it and not an unnamed source of that. Really good journalism from our guy Jarrett Bell.
When we put up the Four Down Territory article, the link to the article will be in there on USA Today. And but you could tell that Peyton was storing it up for a while. That year he was out, he was storing it up because he just kind of unloaded. But yes, many kudos to Jarrett Bell for getting all that, because wow, that's one of those things where you're like, I can't wait to transcribe this. I've had a couple of those. When Adrian Peterson in 2011 compared the NFL to modern day slavery.
That was you?
That was me.
Wow. Dang.
Phone interview. And I'm like, and I said, I did something I never do. I gave him an out. I said, I want you to know that you're on the record. And I want you to know that you can take this back. And he said, I'm on the record. And then he said it louder. I'm like, okay, still have the tape.
The double down. Dang.
Yeah.
That's bananas, man. Good journalism by you.
I can't believe, oh my God. And this is back when there was a lot more email involvement. I think my email server crashed.
Wow.
Oh,
dang.
So, kudos to Jarrett. And then that, just a little side tangent for a sec. When you get those, you almost don't know what to do with them. They're so big. It's like, oh my God, this is gonna tip the whole discussion on its head for a couple of days. And Jarrett, as a veteran, great journalist, knew what to do with it.
Love that for him. Love that for USA Today. My worst of the week is the New England Patriots, and really this is the worst of the last 2 weeks. Because what's happened here? They've been outscored 72-3 the last 2 weeks. They got shut out this week against the New Orleans Saints. They lost to the Saints 34-0.
Mm-hmm. That's progress because they lost by 35 the week before. So they're getting better.
Not scoring against the Saints is one thing. The Saints have a good defense, right?
Yeah.
Giving up 34 to New Orleans? Not a great look.
Well, 27 because Mac Jones threw the pick six to Tyrann Mathieu.
Fair enough. Okay, 27.
So give their defense a break there.
Giving up 27 to this, not a great look. No, they are right now, and you look at media and fans and stuff in Boston, and there's finger pointing going on everywhere. It's not one thing. It's not, oh, their defense isn't good. It's not, oh, their offensive line isn't good, or their receivers or their quarterback or whatever you want to pick. Nothing's going right for them. They're as rudderless as any team in the NFL right now. And if Bill Belichick wasn't Bill Belichick, or was 60% of the coach Bill Belichick has been over the last 2.5 decades, then he would be right in the middle of the spotlight for the coaches to be gone mid-season.
He would be number one. Honestly, he'd probably already be gone. I mean, and we've heard this stuff about Robert Kraft being impatient with it, and we all thought, this is Bill Belichick. You can't even now.
I think the bigger issue for me is not necessarily Bill Belichick as a scheme guy or whatever, because honestly, you look at what they did against Philly, and then you look at what they did against Miami. Scheme wise, they were pretty sound, and I thought those are pretty good coaching jobs. But when it's Bill Belichick, also the personnel guy, and then you look at their personnel, and it's just not good.
No,
that's where I think the problem really rises in New England. So. Yeah, worst of the week / last 2 weeks for me is the New England Patriots, because in really my lifetime that I've watched and paid attention closely to the NFL, because I was 10 when they won their first Super Bowl with Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. I don't know the Patriots to be this bad. So this is new territory for me, and I'm 33 years old.
Yeah, well, and he keeps playing with his food. The whole thing with Patricia and Judge running the offense last year, it's like,
it's bizarre.
It's like I don't know. And this year with Bill O'Brien, it's like, okay, we're going to bring a guy back. We're not, and you're like, we're the new creative Shanahan McVay guys in running the offense. Why can't you? I don't know. It's tough. I mean, he's the greatest coach in the history of football. He's one of the 2 or 3 greatest coaches in the history of sports. Mm-hmm. But everyone has their Van Halen 3, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, tough times for Bill Belichick in New England. But like you said, still the greatest coach in NFL history. Has a strong argument for that. So this won't take away from that at all. Hey, Doug, this was terrific. Thanks so much for talking with me today. As usual, this is 4 Down Territory. Check us out every single week. We're going to be doing this throughout the NFL season. We will see you guys next time.
Thanks, everyone.